Welcome everyone, Costin here with the discussion about Amenmesse in Total War Pharaoh Dynasties. Amenmesse may very well have the strongest economy in the game, which does give him a significant amount of potential in his campaign. Furthermore, Amenmesse also starts in this particular area of the campaign map, which is, for the most part, very, very safe, once you do establish control. Memnon also starts over here, and you can certainly ally him quickly enough. If point of fact, you can even confederate him if you're playing your cards right over here with him. So there's a lot of possibilities in terms of safety of territory. There is one particular danger in that, in terms of desert nomads, the Libu, they will be invading over here in this particular area. So these two gold mines may be at risk, depend on how things do end up playing out over there. If you do enable the invasions or not. Personally, I would disable them. I think they add very, very little to the game. Now, why does Amenmesse have the strongest economy, or one of the strongest economies in the game? Well, it boils down to a couple of factors. For starters, if we look at his court position, he does have the Viceroy of Kush position as his initial one, which will grant you 50 gold per turn. And then you do start with 4 regions of territory under your control. Very, very quickly over here. So you'll start with several food regions, 1 gold mine, and 1 stone mine. You also have access to more stone, bronze, and another gold mine over here. You can gain control of 2 entire provinces very quickly, including 2 regions that both of them give you gold. The only thing you're going to be missing potentially is wood, but you do start with a lumber depot over here on the Nile that does grant you certain wood per turn. So wood is not really going to be a problem. Gold is not really going to be a problem. Stone is not going to be a problem. And this gives you an enormous amount of potential just by itself. But there is more. A lot more with Amenmesse. Because you see, Amenmesse doesn't just have the regular gold income building that goes up to 130 gold. No, he has a secondary building. It does cost influence, -2 influence per turn, but at the same time, it is generating up to 75 gold extra. Furthermore, when we're looking at the situation, he can generate every other resource using that gold through the sake of the gold market that can be then upgraded into the hidden rooms. So you can gain bronze, food, stone, wood at the cost of gold. It is a good trade of resources, to be honest. Like, consider just like the bronze. Forget the food for a moment. Just consider the stone and bronze. You're getting 90 stone and bronze, and then 105 if you add wood alone, and then 110 food. But you are paying gold for it. Still, the ability of generating every resource without worrying about which type of territory you're controlling is very beneficial. Also, there's a huge amount of territory that's either very easy to take, like for instance the East Nubia province is like ruined at the beginning of the game, so I can just take it over here and get an extra gold mine. That is another benefit. But they don't stop even then. On top of that, the final benefit is you get the Kushite Delegate School, which gives you 15% production to all resources, diplomatic relations with non-Egyptian factions, and workforce growth at the cost of influence. But influence is not really going to be too much of an issue. Worth pointing out that the gold markets and the hidden rooms can only be built in either gold mines or provincial capital. So the more provinces you have, the more of these hidden rooms you can build. Okay, so those are some of the unique structures that Amenmesse does have available in his campaign. His commands, I would dare say they're not particularly... Well, his active command isn't particularly great because you do have the ability of creating a gold mask ancillary, which increases your legitimacy by 6, but it's kind of not worth using. However, the passive effect reduces the gold cost for all units and buildings by 20%. It might just be worth like keeping the passive effect on as opposed to using the active effect. You can also buy court actions with gold. Yes, this is pretty damn sweet because you do start one with a significant number of gold. You probably have more gold than anyone else in the game. In fact, you might have more gold than a lot of other factions combined. And you can buy actions over here with gold. Now over here I've certainly been trading away a lot of that gold for various resources in order to get things going here. Keep in mind I could have done things a lot faster over here, but you do have a choice if you're playing an Amenmesse campaign. Are you playing for getting as much done as quickly as possible, or are you playing the long game? In this particular campaign I decided to play the long game. One of the things I've stated is that with Egypt, the merchant is by far and away the single best choice as an ancient legacy. Well, here's the thing about Amenmesse. He is the only Egyptian faction in which you can completely skip the merchant and a vast cache of resources that he provides you, and instead go for a 10, which is the second most powerful one. Well, realistically, in terms of faction effects, it is the most powerful one, but the vast amount of resources you get for the merchant make it so that there's no real competition. In this case, I've combined two gods, Horus and Thoth. People have asked me, it's like, what are the best gods to combine for a 10? I would start with Horus and Thoth. I would have all gods unlocked from the very beginning. But there is a bunch of choices, right? Like, I'm just talking about the Egyptian gods here. If you were to combine other things, there's other possibilities available in a campaign that you can use. And if you're wondering, yes, these two effects from the Egyptian way station, which gives you movement range, combined with the prayer benefit, do stack. Now, I don't know what the movement range benefit actually is in the game, if there is a cap. I feel like there isn't a cap because you can certainly customize the movement range to increase it massively on the campaign map, but I don't know if there is a cap or not. I don't think there is necessarily. You can certainly move very, very quickly. Like, you move across the Nile very, very quickly as well. So you can do something that many other factions can't do in Egypt or outside that. You sacrifice a really powerful ancient legacy that can be very beneficial early on for a longer term benefit with the 10. Because the 10 is going to like, if you have enough resources that you don't need the merchant, and you don't as Amenmesse, you can go with the 10. Now, it does have its own negative effects. You could just customize your campaign to start you with more resources from the beginning. I'd firmly recommend that because, yeah, over here I don't have as many armies as I could have. But still, I'm in a pretty strong position over here with the troops I do have. Okay, so I've said all of the benefits that this particular faction has. What are the downsides? Because they do exist. Well, one of the major downsides, I would say, is that this campaign can be a bit boring in some ways because you do start over here in this corner and the faction that you're opposed will not really challenge you. I'd probably recommend only spending as much time as you absolutely need to in this particular area of the map, and then just marching north across the Nile. Like, take those risks. Beat the crap out of Seti, if you can. And funnily enough, ally freaking Tostret, because, yeah, you can ally Tostret and make her a very good and firm ally over here. Probably take out this particular faction in Miam. Give that territory, like in North Nubia, take that territory, sell it to Tostret, have her secure your flank over here, and then go kill Seti, because you will want to kill Seti. Fight the civil war, dethrone Meneptah, take that territory. Like, you don't want to spend too much time here. Like, you have flexibility, you should use it. But that is one downside of it. Like, the isolationism can get to you. The bigger problem is with the units. Now, some people are going to argue, and frankly, I think they have no bloody clue what they're talking about. Like, I've played quite a bit of Pharaoh, pre-Dynasties, post-Dynasties. I'm going to tell you outright. It is better with lethality with the infantry, with the balancing in general, but heavy infantry, having a good infantry roster is still freaking important. You don't have that. That's the problem. You have the best ranged infantry roster in the entire game, But there are limitations in what it can do. Like, okay, field battles, that's one thing, though there can be some issues there as well. But sieges or minor settlements, you will encounter some problems. But if we look at the archer range, you do get the Kushite armored archers, pretty solid, good amount of durability, shielded, do a good amount of damage over here. And then you have the Tasseti longbowmen. They don't have the shielded benefit, but geez, they're both really, really good units with a very high level of range, especially the Tasseti longbowman. At 240 range is nothing to laugh about. They may struggle with the vision a bit over there. Still, some very powerful archers that you do have available. In terms of native units that you start with, though, you know, native units are available to everyone. You do have some benefits, specifically with the Kushite spearmen, who are fairly decent and durable infantry units. Problem: you don't have access to many infantry units that have both good durability, which is important, and good damage dealing capabilities. The only one that you actually have access to, well, there's two of them really. You have the Nubian swordsmen, but they're light infantry. They are a bit decently armored for a light infantry unit. They're shielded, they do a decent amount of damage, they have a decent amount of lethality, but the only real unit you have that's durable and can do a good amount of damage are the Kushite Royal Guard. But that's a tier 4 unit with all the consequences that come from a tier 4 unit over there. You certainly have the money to afford them, but it is a problem when you only have really one good unit like that. And you don't have like two-handed units, you don't have like very heavy units, you do struggle in that respect. Now, of course, you can make it up with, you know, some of the units you can recruit from the court once you do gain control of the crown, or once you move over, you know, out of Egypt, basically, if you want to move out of Egypt, though it's a long distance away. Like, it's not a problem having a lot of longbowmen in Egypt, but if you want to play a more diverse campaign, yes, it is going to be a problem. But you can rely on Canaanite units, Hittite units, Greek units, if you want to go that far. Could be an interesting experience. But still, it is certainly a bit of a problem when we're considering the situation over there with respect to the units. And it is a limiting factor. What I'm trying to say is, because of the units you have, many factions can end up in a situation where they can really out-resolve a lot of battles in their campaign. You might have to fight a lot of siege battles. Like, for instance, in this campaign, I had to fight the siege battle against Kawa, for instance. I won it. It wasn't too bad, but it wasn't a great experience either. So you might be just because your units are not going to be necessarily the best in auto-resolve. Like, it's exactly this army. So you have a bunch of lower armored units, and you do lack melee units. You want to focus on the archers, but archers do, believe it or not, despite what people are talking about with range lethality, they do have their limitations. And it is going to take you a while to get access to, you know, Was It, for instance, because, yeah, you do want Was It, but it is a bit farther away than you might want, right? So you do want access to that. So I would say Amenmesse does have a journey of a campaign. It can be rewarding, but there are also limitations. This is, like, the issues of the unit roster are the reason why I didn't put this faction in S tier. Great economy, enormous level of power, because of that economy that shouldn't be underestimated, but certain issues, certain limitations in the unit roster that you will have to deal with in your campaign. Would recommend it, though. Would certainly recommend it. There is a huge level of diplomatic power, and you do have that flexibility with Ancient Legacies that others lack. Like, if you're playing Tasret or Amenmesse or Seti, you almost always want to pick the merchant, because it's going to screw you over so much. Amenmesse has such a powerful economy, you can choose not to go with the merchant and do whatever you want in terms of Ancient Legacies. And that is in itself an enormous level of power. Just wish he had the better infantry roster to deal with the actual problems we have in the game, because range units, they're going to run out of ammo. They're going to have their limitations. They're going to have their problems. And in some ways, like, while you have very good high-tier archers, Tastra may have better early-game archers than you do. Maybe not as long range, but heavier in terms of armor, do better auto-resolve, all that kind of stuff. Costin signing out.